Hello, everyone. Salutations, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever time of day it is. This is your host, Michael. Welcome back to Mike's Night. I know it has been a while, and I say that literally every other episode. But as you know, things are going on in the background that take a little bit of priority for me. So just to get some life stuff out the way first and foremost, I had a commission that happened recently. And I've done commissions before because of the business I have a small business where I do heat press. If you don't know, heat press is essentially I make a design and get it printed out. That specific print is supposed to go onto clothing, so like tote bags, shirts, hoodies, pants, anything like that. I can also do hats, plates, some other stuff, mugs as well. Essentially, that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been doing research on that, trying to get that off the ground and running. In this commission I was doing, I got some valuable lessons from after experiencing this one. Now, again, I worked with this client before, and they wanted something for baby clothes, like a newborn baby's onesie. So I was speaking to them. I was saying, okay, what are you looking for? What exactly do you want? They said they want this, this, and this. I made it design. I got it printed. I got it sent to me. I got the clothing for the toddler self, and I was going to deliver it. And at the end of it all, I was saying, okay, I got everything that I need to start. I can finish it by this day, and I can have it delivered to you at a undisclosed time, so something that we would both agree to. And I said I can get that, or everything all together would be around. Okay, in my defense, I do think that it should have been around $60, maybe even a little bit less, just because I am doing everything, getting all the materials and delivering it to them personally. If it wasn't for that case, it may have been a bit lower, but I decided to go with 40 to 45 just because they're like one of my first clients. So I'm not going to be I didn't want to push too much on that, but that's what I decided on. That's what it was. Even if it was even if you don't agree with the price, maybe it should have been more. That's what I decided on. And when I did that, they told me, I'm terribly sorry, but I did want to cancel the commission. It was something about family issues, and of course, I'm not going to disclose their name. That's confidentiality. That's so their information will be private. In this case, yes, the client did cancel on me. I did request that they pay a small fee because I literally ordered everything I needed, and there was a non-refundable fee for some of the items that I had. So I basically just asked them to cover it, which was about $15. But from now on, is something that I am going to do is I'm going to require a down payment for any work that I do. The down payment is probably going to be something super simple, like $10 to $15. Just to start out, just so something like if something like this ever happens again, then yeah, at least I'll be compensated for any work that I do. I'll be compensated for my time, or compensated for just like if they decide to cancel even at the very beginning. Yeah, that's going to be a non-refundable fee that I will have to charge from now on. I kind of knew that before, but at the same time, it never really crossed my mind to really implement that. But now I think going forward, I will implement that because again, I literally had everything ready to go. I was ready to start pressing it down onto the clothing. The only thing that I needed was just a confirmation on the date that we would both agree on, and that I can get it done and have it delivered to them immediately. And then there was another thing where I need to have more of a strong foundation in terms of how I properly do my business. Now, for instance, what I mean by that is if I'm going to, like, say I'm doing a consultation. For a consultation, me personally, I wouldn't really charge anything. For that, I'll be like, okay, are we going to work with me? Okay, fine. So what exactly are you looking for? What kind of design do you need? How large is this project going to be? It's like, just a simple like discussion about what exactly we're doing. For something like that, I wouldn't charge because we're just talking about it. Now, if I'm going further with that, for instance, we go to another meeting. If I go to start right away, then I won't do anything until I get that down payment fee. Once I do that, then I can knock it out as soon as I possibly can, be very efficient about it. And that's also having that foundation can also lay the groundwork for like what I actually provide in terms of the work I do. So for instance, if a client comes to me and they are asking for, okay, I want a logo for this business or this event or whatever, and I want to have like a bunch of different prints. I want to have stickers. Maybe I want a banner or something like that. Okay, then I can say I can have for a large that'd be a medium to a large project depending on how much they want. I can have like different criteria for, okay, if it's like a small thing, like if you just want a logo, you want something like a brand identity thing, then something like that sounds simple. That won't take me too long. I probably would provide multiple different variations of of a design, or just have, we can have discussions, we can have meetings and stuff like that to discuss and have a communication about what exactly you want from the work that I'm doing. For something like that, I'll have like what did it say? There's like a basic plan. There's a plus, and then there's like premiere or whatever, or however else they say it. But essentially something like that. Or for like a basic plan, yeah, I'll be willing to have conversation with you about what exactly we're doing. It's like a small project. For something like that, I may charge like around like $50 to about $70, depending on what it is. I am willing to like haggle, but to a certain extent. And for something that's like a medium project to a large project, yeah, we can go up. We're reaching up to like $100. But depending on what the project is, will determine how much I would ask of them. Now, again, because every project has like slightly different variations, I am willing to negotiate prices. But generally, having a foundation of what needs to be done, having that foundation of, if before I start anything, you must pay this down payment fee, just so I have something to fall back on if you decide to quit midway through. But that's something that I learned during this commission, and I have no hard feelings towards the client I was working with. That was mostly my fault anyway, in terms of not having that set in stone beforehand. And of course, life does happen, things do happen, and something happened on her end. So she decided, yeah, I can't really do this anymore, I'm sorry. And I had no issues with that. So anything that I was able to return has been returned. The only thing that, like I said, that down payment fee that I did ask for her, she did pay. So all's clear in the water. There's no hard feelings, no harm was done. But yes, I did learn some valuable lessons while experiencing that. Life thing number 2, I did quit it was at one point my primary job, but it was my secondary job after a while. I did quit FedEx. I have enough scars, chemical burns, and cuts and bruises all over my body I'm not going back there again. And that was more of a one-time thing. If I'm going back to a warehouse job, then I'm probably going to do anything else but FedEx. FedEx was not like the worst company to work for, but sometimes it was kind of shady. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to talk too much about that. But essentially, yeah, I'm done with FedEx. It was cool while lots of people there were pretty nice. But yeah, it was just an experience, just something temporary that needed to be done for the time being. And then off of that, because of this commission that I was doing, it did get me back into the groove of using my heat press again. I was going through a little rut where like, okay, I really don't want to work with this thing anymore. Like, oh my god, the hassle of putting it together. It takes quite a long time to put together. Even though it's not like the biggest heat press in the world, it's not that complicated to put together. It's irritating. It's irritating to put together at times because some of those screws are long, and it takes like 20 minutes to screw in a single screw, and it's like 4 or 5 of them. So it takes a while to put together. Then I had another issue because of me moving around to different houses. I did somehow lose some of the most important screws on that machine, and I don't know how it happened because every other screw was in the bag where it needs to be. But I noticed on the bag that I was using, it had a hole at the bottom. So it may have been lost in the apartment I was in. I did find one randomly. I think I noticed, this might go to that machine. I'll put it in my windowsill. But either way, it was a hassle putting it together. But now that I have it put together, I've already been trying to use it again for its intended purpose. I started using more of the attachments. For instance, I have a attachment where I can press on the hats. I did learn. Of course, I had some like just throwaway hats because I bought from Hobby Lobby just to practice on. So number 1, if you don't know about anything about heat pressing in general, heat transfers, DTS, whatever you want to call it. If you're trying to print on anything with dark coloration, darker fabric in terms of ink, you need more heat and more pressure in order to properly apply a design to a any fabric that is darkly colored. Anything that's lighter, that's like your whites, your light blues, your tans, creams, those don't need as much heat, but you still need the correct amount of pressure to apply a transfer to those articles of clothing, or just fabrics in general. So I think on my very first attempt, I did learn, because I was using a black hat with a white design. The white design on the right side, it came out fairly well, but on the left side, I noticed that, okay, the machines are like a little crooked, so it didn't apply the correct amount of pressure, and I don't think the heat was bad. I could have used like a little bit more, so like 5 more points of heat. Like normally set around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. I think I had that set at 290, but essentially I didn't use enough pressure on that side, and the design itself, it crumbled. It didn't apply to the hat itself. So that is something that, okay, next time I need to use more pressure and like a little bit more heat when I'm applying designs like this. I did it on the next hat I did. It was a black and white hat. So what the brim was, like the very front of the hat was white, while the rest of the hat was completely black. So on that one, I had a black design. I applied using more heat and more pressure. So that one came out perfectly fine. And I also did learn that I need to start using heat tape. So heat tape is a type of tape that won't like mess up the clothing, won't mess up the design. You apply it over the design to keep it in place while it's getting pressed down. I didn't really have any this time. The only reason I had some on me, like a little like strip that I had, was because when I ordered the prints that I was applying to it, it came with like a very small sliver of heat tape on some protective material. So that's the only reason I even had any right now. But I think next time I go to the store, I'll grab some. They shouldn't be that expensive, maybe less than $10, I'm hoping. But either way, yeah, that's something I didn't learn while playing around with the heat press, doing this commission, and that's something I'm going to have to apply in the future towards my commissions and business in general. So, light stuff out the way, going on to what I really want to talk about today. So, as you all know, I am a nerd. I'm a nerdy nerd. A nerd that doesn't really talk too much about his like nerdy like side, or I don't really talk too much about what I really enjoy. I'm pretty reserved about what I'm really into. You can almost say gatekeeping. There's a lot of things I'm really into and I don't like talking about, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like talking to other nerds, even though I really enjoy being with other nerds. It's a weird dynamic. It's not, I think I've talked about it before, but it's not like a thing where, I hate all nerds, even though I'm clearly a nerd myself. No, I actually do quite enjoy talking with people, like-minded people, when it comes to things I enjoy. Like if I'm talking about the history of a game, the lore of a game, like, or certain characters and how they operate, or how they have a dynamic with another character. Yeah, I love doing that. Even though I'm not into fighting games, I don't really play them like that, but I really enjoy like the technical skill that you need to play a fighting game. I enjoy talking to people about fighting games and stuff like that, or movies or shows or anything like that. There was a person I was speaking to recently. We're both artists, and I saw a piece of artwork, a print on like Instagram or something, and I said, I think they would really enjoy this. So I sent it to them, trying to show it off. And they said, I know this artist. They were a designer for the Street Fighter series. I think it was like Street Fighter Third Strike or Street Fighter 3. I don't really remember. But she was telling me, this is a artist for this company. It's like, I didn't know that. That explains a lot. Then I went to their page and I saw what kind of work that they did. And it's like, this is super cool. Well, now I like this artist even more. But there was a fun fact about that, actually. He said that his or her, I don't really remember, his or her story of how they got to that point was actually pretty inspiring. But they referenced the potential of like doing art on your own, like doing what you love. But there's also but there is a antithesis to that, where there's an artist that was basically in the same situation, but they fell off into like the dark path, the dark side. They kind of ruined their career. And I was like, I was like, why did they ruin the career? And they said, you honestly can just look it up by just going to like their Twitter profile. I'm not calling it their Twitter profile. And And I was like, okay, just send it to me, and I'll go check it out myself. Luckily, I was on an alt account, but when I went to go see who it was, yeah, they do animated porn now. So yeah, I say, okay, I understand now. I understand what happens. But essentially, yeah, I enjoy talking to other like nerdy people because a lot of time they have they know a lot about what they're into. Like if I'm like, even though I'm into fighting, it's like I like Street Fighter. Like I like certain aspects of it, like some of the music, I like some of the characters. I like learning about their backstories. I'm not like a average Street Fighter fan. So when I'm talking to other people who like Street Fighter or are really into it, like I'm learning a lot. Is that conversation really when that conversation really comes up is invigorating. I like it. And in terms of talking to other like nerdy people, yeah, I just really enjoy it. And there's things that I really enjoy it. And if I really feel comfortable like talking with certain individuals, then yeah, I can have a full blown conversation. And like it's kind of relaxing, honestly. I'm like having fun when I'm doing it. Like I wish I could do it more often. But there's the other caveat to that, where something I don't like too much about speaking to certain like nerdy people. Some nerdy people can come off as very pretentious. They can come off as like, oh, what if you didn't know this about this specific thing? Are you stupid, or you're not as big of a fan as I am? Or even if you're just a casual person, like, oh yeah, I really enjoy this for this reason. It's not like a super in-depth reason. You can just enjoy it. You can just play it just casually. You can have fun. Sometimes I like if you're doing cosplay, you don't really have to like be in love with a series. You don't need to know every little thing. You can just enjoy something for one simple fact. But there are some people who will put you down because you aren't doing it the way that they like it. They're not doing it the way that was accurate. You're not doing it the way that that it was intended to be. It was like, it's not that serious. And there are a lot of nerd people who are exactly like that. And I'm not really a fan of that. And unfortunately, that is even like normally I would say that's like a small like percentage of most of the nerdy community. Unfortunately, in my experience, that is like almost it's not it's about half and half, where there are plenty of people that I think are really cool. I can really respect. I can really enjoy like having conversations with. Then there's the other half, which are unpleasant. I'll say that at the very least. And that's just something that I see with the nerd community in general. And when I say nerd community, like honestly, you can say nerd community about literally anything. But when I say nerds, I'm talking about like your animes, your games, your movies, your TV shows, cartoons. I mean, that's like that kind of nerd. That aspect's like your Dungeons and Dragons. I lost my train of thought. But essentially, you know what I'm talking about. So with that being said, I did want to go through some of the stuff that I've been watching recently, or stuff that I'm anticipating that are coming out. You're not going to find too many live action shows for me. I haven't really watched too many live action movies or shows recently. There are some that I do want to check out. For instance, I still haven't seen Breaking Bad. I've been wanting to watch Daredevil because I have access to Hulu at the moment. So I want to catch up on Daredevil. I need to find out how to watch season 1. Possibly legally. And let me see. There was a couple movies. Like, what was that movie? There was something I was looking up yesterday. What was it? It was. It had I think it won an Oscar. It was. Oh, what is this? I need to look it up. Hold on. It was One Battle After Another. That's what it was. I've been hearing good things about that movie, so I'll need to go check that one out too. There's also The Punisher. There's also the Spider-Man movie coming up fairly soon. There's a couple live action stuff I'm looking forward to, and perhaps Doomsday. But yeah, we'll wait for that one. Don't wait for that one to come out. But first, I want to go over the animes I've been watching. So number one, the one that I've been waiting for a while now is Steel Ball Run. If you know what JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is, you know that show is wild. I actually really enjoy the art style of JoJo because each part and the parts are kind of like their own separate story. So part 1 is not the same as part 2. Different characters, different cast. Part 3 is the same way. Part 4 is the same way. Part 5 is the same way. There's some recurring themes and some recurring characters that come back from previous parts, but generally there's a completely different cast each part. And this recent part 7, Steel Ball Run, is considered to be one of, if not the best part of all of them, point blank period. Now a lot of people say they'll say part 4 is their favorite, they'll say part 5 is their favorite, but I'm really interested in part 7. Yeah, I think it has a lot of potential. I started reading the manga a while ago. I think it was during COVID when I started reading it. I only got to the point of where this recent first episode ended. This first episode was about an hour long, and there are a lot of parts of that first episode that were cut from the manga, there's parts in the manga that were cut in the anime itself, which I don't think is a bad thing. It made the pacing of the actual episode itself really good. This first episode was really good. It was really great. And I will say, in my terms of being a nerd, I am really into listening to the musical applications of how the applications that have music and sound are used inside of media. So for instance, if you're in a scary movie, how is the music used to amplify the atmosphere of the area? How are creepy sounds used to make something that is, kind of just something that is kind of creepy to something that's actually scary, that has tension, that has stakes. I'm really into listening to OSTs. I'm really into listening to sound bites, to understanding, okay, if I'm listening to something, that's a cool effect. How did they create that? I'm sound design. There's of course music theory. I'm really into stuff like that. So the theme that was playing, the main theme, I guess you could say almost the main character theme in this first episode, is actually super cool. I almost want to say there was a part of the theme song itself which is called Dance with Steel Ball Run, where the saxophone comes in the first time. I'm gonna be honest, I don't say this very often, but that saxophone was sexy as hell. There's either a bass sax or it's a saxophone, I don't know, but man, the volume and the quality of that sound is so good. But I think I cannot wait for the rest of the episodes to start coming out. We don't really know what the upload schedule is going to be. So we don't know if it's going to be one episode per week. We don't know if it's what they did in the past, 3 episodes per month or something like that. But I'm very, regardless of what it is, I'm very much anticipating the runtime for this entire anime. I'm really looking forward to it, and I have high expectations for it. Moving on from there, I do want to go back to reevaluate a anime that I think I did a review on this channel before, which was Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I think looking back on it now, I would give it a slightly higher grade, because I think before I gave it a 6 out of 10, and I still think some of my criticisms about it still stand. How they say Alphonse was supposedly in terms of combat, the better brother, the stronger brother, yet he's the one who's always getting captured, the one who's always losing fights, the one who is more often than not kind of a liability in combat. If it is okay, why did you say that? And Eric was the one who's always on the forefront in the battlefield doing most of the heavy lifting. So I just felt that just seems weird. I understand he had a metal body, but it was kind of why even say that at that point? Or the fact that a lot of the research elements that you saw at the very beginning and the middle of the show it was kind of lost towards the end of it, which okay, it's kind of a shame. I understand maybe there wasn't as much of a need of it towards the end of the show, but that's kind of the thing that I really enjoyed about it in the very first half of it. They had to do research. They weren't all knowing. They were still, even the ones who are older, much more wise, they had to do research to get to a solution to something. And I was really into that. But I think the thing that I don't think I forgot, but I do think that I didn't really take into consideration during my evaluation was the way that the world affected the entirety of the anime. So the location of the main cast, the location of everything that's going on is in I can't remember the actual name of the country, but essentially the country is it's in a war state. At the very north portion, there's a nation that are antagonistic towards them, and there's even a location that is dedicated to the defense of the northern barrier. And even though they reference it multiple times throughout the story, you only ever saw that military attack them one time, which of course in terms of the story, it has actual impact to the story. It's not, even though we only saw them one time, we did see that, yeah, they are still attacking them. They're still a threat to the nation. And we saw how they were handled in that portion. There was actual relevance. I'm starting on my words. Relevance to what exactly they're doing there. And once they were dealt with, it actually played a part into the story. Or another part of the story where there's like a different faction, which not very similar thing, but they seem like more akin to like a Chinese faction where they have different clans. They're from a certain dynasty. They're coming over to this nation, like the main nation I'm talking about, to do research on a type of immortality. And while they're there, these clans are still fighting each other. They're antagonistic to each other. They're not antagonistic to the state itself. They're antagonistic to each other. And when two characters from different clans meet, they're ready to like throw down. They're ready to throw away their lives. And it's, even though it's only like touched up on like once or twice, they make negotiations. They're making like political deals while they're dealing with the main nation's issues. They still have their own issues that are going on in the background. And that's something that I think I can respect a lot in terms of how this anime handles like its subplots. Like they don't really forget about it, but it's not in the forefront. It's handled in a way that is still impactful to the main story, but it's not exactly in the way. They're still dealing with their own things while dealing with the main issue at hand. And I do think that really raises the grade for me from like a 6 to probably like a 7, maybe even 8. So for that, I did want to go back to reevaluate that, and that's something like, okay, yeah, I think I just overlooked that while doing my review. Another anime that I've been really into lately is Sentenced to Be a Hero. Now, if you've seen your My Hero Academias, you've seen your Fire Forces, you've seen any hero-related anime, your regular shonen nonsense, you've seen all that. You can understand what most like animes refer to as a hero. You understand like the general premise. You understand like what your all your all mights are and all that. Essentially, and since to be a hero, it flips that on its head. So in this world, to be sentenced to be a hero is like the pinnacle punishment. It's like it's a crime. It's like you committed such a heinous crime that you're forced to be a hero. And the heroes they're looked down upon. They're hated. They're treated as like the worst scum in all of society. And each character that we follow that is a hero is literally anyone who notices that they are a hero, they are disgusted immediately. They want nothing to do with them. They don't respect them. They don't give them food. They don't give them housing. They basically are on their own doing what their government, or I guess in this case, the church says. And it's in the very early stages, so it's a very interesting concept to me with really good animation. Now, if you've seen recent One Piece, I'm talking One Piece like during Wano, maybe even Egghead Island, then you kind of understand the general animation style, like the way that they handle water, the way they handle fire, or just movement in general. It's very similar to that. I do think it's a bit more clean. It's not as, I would say, kind of confusing as One Piece is. And of course, they don't share the same art style whatsoever. But in terms of animation style, though, I do think it's very similar. But I do think this one is done a bit more tastefully, so I respect it. I won't say respect it, but I like it a bit more because it's a bit easier to follow compared to One Piece. But like I said, it's in the very early stages. So the story, I wouldn't say is like phenomenal as of right now, but it has a lot of potential in the way that, and especially in the way that they can handle the characters. Now, the characters all have noticeable flaws that can honestly be seen as very interesting towards their development or even their backstories. For instance, one character has this thing where the reason that they're even sentenced to be a hero because they were known to be a thief. They've stolen very important items. I think the story was that they stole something and it endangered like the prince or something along those lines. We'll get more of that, I'm sure, in the future. But essentially, this character has this very powerful tick where they have to steal. Like whenever you see them, like they're saying, I just peck these up off the ground. Like there's like weapons, bombs, there people like purses, there's alcohol, there's a bunch of different stuff, and it's like he has to do it. And he comes off as a bit cowardly. You know, he is a thief after all. He does come off a bit cowardly. But as time goes on, you notice, oh wow, he actually has quite a unique skill set, that he's very helpful towards the group. And he's not exactly a terrible person. There's a story that hasn't been told yet, that he has motivations, he had reasons for what he did. So as the story goes on, our sure will get more. Oh, and I should have mentioned, as a hero, they are immortal. So this punishment is literally a permanent punishment. Like, even if they die, their body is brought back, or their soul is brought back using like remnants from other people's soul. And whenever they are brought back from the dead, they lose parts of their memory. So as they keep living, they eventually will die again. They are losing themselves over and over and over again. Now, luckily, in terms of the story, no one has really died yet, but everyone there clearly has a portion of their memory that has been lost. So I do think it has a lot of potential in terms of how as long as the story is told in a very good manner, I do think it has a ton of potential. I'll be keeping my eye on it for now on. Now, I did need to get this off my chest, because I can't stand it anymore. All my Jujutsu Kaisen fans, listen to me. Anyone who reads the manga, I don't want to hear it that Jujutsu Kaisen fans can't read. I don't want to hear it. Listen, some of my favorite animes in general have a lot of exposition. It has a lot of talking. There's a lot of political stuff. For instance, I love Overlord. I really love Overlord. Overlord has a lot of that, where there's characters like motivations, there's characters exposition, that there's a lot going on in the background. As they're explaining it, you kind of have to keep up to, if you know partially of what one character's plan is or their motivations, you kind of have to guess or even think about, okay, so how is this going to play out? What could they possibly gain from this? There is exposition in Overlord, where I don't think it's the most complex anime out there. There's a lot more other complex anime, I do think. This one still has a ton of exposition, and there's a ton that you still have to keep up with in terms of like how politics run in the world. But oh my god, Jujutsu Kaisen, this recent season especially, it is driving me up a wall. So Jujutsu Kaisen has this thing where, again, sometimes it's not complicated. Like, you can understand what they're talking about. You can follow with what they're saying, but the way that they explain certain things, they over-explain it to a point where, like, they're trying to sound smart, but they're trying to make it sound like they're trying to fit it into the current power system that they have already. But it comes off as, well, this is what the power is, but here's this exception. There's an exception to this exception. And that exception has an exception to even that counteracts this exception. It drives me up a wall. For instance, when they were talking to Tengen, like they were talking about, Tengen he's literally the person that created like the barrier techniques. Not even created, but they're like the best, the pinnacle of barrier techniques. And as they were explaining, like in terms of the Culling game, which is what this recent season is, while they're explaining the Culling games, I'm trying to keep up with what they're saying. Like, we've never seen really Tengen before. We know who some of the characters are that are talking to him. We haven't seen too much of them, but as they're talking, they're bringing up other characters that may have only been referenced one time. They're bringing up stuff that it's like, oh yeah, there's a contradiction to this rule, or there is an exception to this rule. And as they're showing that, they're showing the rules of the Culling game, and there was a point during the show itself, there was so much text on screen. I didn't know where one started and one ended. There was so much text on screen. It literally covered that from top to bottom was strictly text. And I did not know what was going on. Maybe if I was watching it dub, maybe it'll be easier to follow, but I'm being so serious. I don't know who thought about this. It was so confusing. Like, I'm sure in the manga itself is better explained, because in the manga you can take your time. You can take your time to read through. You can go back to pages, and I'm sure it's lined up better where it's easier to read. But for some reason, when I'm watching anime, it is so confusing. It is beyond confusing. It's to the point of like, what are we actually saying here? And I had to go back and rewatch it. Like, okay, if I'm rewatching, I have to pause it. I have to wait. Like, I'm trying to read and trying to understand properly what's actually going on, but there's too much going on all at the same time. And then another issue I generally have with Jujutsu Kaisen is what I said before. There's exceptions and contradictions to the very power system that they have. So, number one, Domain expansion. Domain expansion is one of the most powerful techniques a sorcerer or a sorcerer can have in this show. The domain expansion is supposed to be like this, like all powerful move that's like it's supposed to be a 100% hit rate. You cannot escape it if you're trapped inside of it. Now there are counteractions to it because, of course, anything like that should have a counter. There's ways to negate it or maybe even diminish some of its power. Like, okay, that is fine. I understand that, but like recent episode they came up with something brand new. But like in the beginning, they're saying the only way to get out of the domain expansion is someone breaks in from the outside. Someone gets trapped inside the domain. If someone interferes with it from the outside, they can break through with it. Okay, fine. Then they created a simple domain. A simple domain is the way to protect yourself while in a domain expansion, so it's no longer a 100% hit rate. Okay, some simple domain is fine. There's a way to activate. It's basically like a small domain within yourself, so you're not getting 100% hit until you actually get hit in the show. Don't ask me. I'll get into that in just a second. Then after that simple domain, you can activate a domain within a domain that if your domain is much more refined or more powerful, you can overpower the domain. Okay, those are like 3 things right there. Okay, fine. Those are reasonable. Those are pretty easy to explain. When it comes to, okay, here comes like all the contradictions, all the exceptions. So when someone has a domain but they have a super powerful evil spirit inside of them, because the evil spirit has their own soul, once that domain touches their soul, the evil spirit inside this person can come out and affect the soul of the other person and knock them out of the domain. Or if this person activates a simple domain, the person who activated their simple domain was too slow for the domain session it's too slow because the domain session they activate in like half a second. And because of that, even though their simple domain's already up, they're still able to affect them, even though that's like contradicting the very thing this simple domain is supposed to do. And then there's the fact that this character can just create a domain without like a barrier, and because of this barrier is no longer there, they can expand their domain and no one can really overpower this barrier. Okay, or this domain. Okay, cool. But that kind of like that makes them super strong. Cool. Or in the most recent episode, because his character doesn't have the ability to close their domain, even though they're inside of a domain, they don't have to have 100% hit rate. Even though this character who is known to have created this simple domain, they literally word for word said they created a simple domain. The simple domain doesn't work in this domain because it's not an actual I'm sorry. It's not even that there's so many moving parts in Jujutsu Kaisen, but it's like, if you're going to have a power system, you can like, do you really need to have so many outs, so many contradictions, so many exceptions to the very power system that you made? I can understand that there are counteractions. I can understand that there are plays that you can do that can be to your advantage, even if you're at a disadvantage. There are things you can do. You can outplay them. You can outthink them. I understand that there's cases like that, but they have such a convoluted power system. It is so hard to keep up with it. Like trying to remember, this character has the ability to do this, and that counteracts what this character can do. But this character can counteract what this character can do. But that character can't touch them because of this counteraction. It's so confusing. It's not, and like I said, it's not even like, it's not, some of it is not even like complicated, but it's like they explain it so much that I was like, what did I just listen to? As I'm watching it, sometimes it's like, it's so much information. I just let it go. That's like the one thing I can't stand about Jujutsu Kaisen, strictly in this most recent, this recent season. There's too many contradictions and too many outs for the very power system that they created in the past. But I'm going to move on for this because I've been talking about this too much. I did want to briefly talk about a new show that's coming up fairly soon, which is the Darth Maul Soul. I think it's like the Shadow Empire, something like that. I cannot wait for the show to come out. I am a big Star Wars fan. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and watching this Darth Maul show, and Darth Maul is a super cool character. Not my favorite. My favorite is General Grievous, but Darth Maul is a super cool character, and I'm really interested in how this show is going to operate, because we don't have many shows that are focusing on like the Sith the evil aspect of the space wizards. So I'm really interested in how this is going to play out. We don't really have to. I don't. There's probably books about it, but there aren't really too many shows that touch up on the gang warfare that happens during this period. So I'm just like, okay, this is super cool, and it's also animated, which is amazing because I think anime Star Wars is probably some of the best Star Wars we've had, point blank period. So once this comes out, I'm definitely watching it legally. And for anyone who hasn't watched any anime Star Wars, I highly recommend watching. Clone Wars is like quintessential beginning and best anime Star Wars point blank period. It's fairly long. It has pretty consistent in terms of the story. You don't really you don't really need to know a ton of Star Wars to watch Clone Wars to really enjoy it. Yeah, it's honestly just a really good story. It focuses a lot on humanizing the clones. If you watch the movies, yeah, you understand humanizing the clones is pretty important. There's the Bad Batch, there's Rebels, thing. There's a couple others, I think. There's the Tale series, but the Tale series isn't really super important. It's kind of just candy for any Star Wars fan. There's a couple other really good shows. Andor is a really good show. If you haven't seen Andor, it's a live action show. I highly recommend it. It's super good. There's a couple other Mandalorian. Many people don't like the last season of Mandalorian, but I don't really mind it too much. I know there's a movie coming up pretty soon. I'll definitely be watching that. But essentially, I'm waiting for this show. Now, I did want to briefly touch up on this because I think it's both interesting. It's interesting as a fan, but also is kind of are you blind? Why are people saying that, oh, this isn't what this is? So, if you don't know, Star Wars is a political piece. Point blank period. The creator himself, George Lucas, has said, yeah, Star Wars is a political piece. Star Wars was based off the Vietnam War. Well, many of the weapons were based on World War II weapons. Some of them are literally if you look at them side by side, they're World War II weapons. It came out around the time of the Vietnam War. It was based off the Vietnam War, and it was a statement on how there was a statement on the war itself, and the stance of, okay, this is kind of what the people are. This is what the people want. So, if you do not know, the United States is not the rebellion. The United States is the empire. And the rebels, you can say the rebels were the Vietnamese in this case. But there's one part of Star Wars I think is fascinating, which is, if you really look at it, Star Wars is almost like a play-by-play of what's happening today. And I mean, I know some people will be like, you cannot be comparing Emperor Palpatine to Donald Trump. Emperor Palpatine is a very smart, very calculative, very manipulative individual who knows what he's doing, who knows how to play his cards correctly, knows how to speak to people properly. And Donald Trump is, he's Donald Trump. But it is so fascinating that what happened in Star Wars is happening today. And keep in mind, Star Wars came out well before Trump ever took power. And the way that things happened in Star Wars is again, did not happen. It happened well before Trump took power. So, for instance, the way that Palpatine took power, it was he uses he got into he was at first a businessman. He literally was a businessman first. He started talking his way into the Senate. He started talking his way to the Senate. He gained favor during the start of the Clone War, which he did orchestrate, by the way, just like our current situation. He did orchestrate, saying, well, now that we're being attacked by this invading army, this very dangerous invading army, I think I need more power in order to enact military defenses to make sure that everyone is safe and prosperous in my galaxy, or in our galaxy, because he would have used buzzwords to help elevate where he was. And the people bought that. They ate that up. People loved Palpatine, the Chancellor Palpatine, during this point in time. But as the war went on and towards the Order 66, his colors changed almost immediately. You can look at that guy. He looks evil. I mean, look at him. But all those buzzwords are things that he said he wasn't going to do, other things that he said, we needed this. These invaders, they were terrible people. When in reality, the Separatists, the droid army, the Separatists, yes, they were fighting for reasonable. What they were fighting for was reasonable. They wanted more respect. They wanted prosperity for the people. They weren't getting it. They were being wronged by the Republic at this point. So yeah, they separated from this. So why they called this something separate, the separatists, and they were basically fighting for equality, fighting for rights, but not knowing this is part of Palpatine's plan. Then yeah, once he basically took power, he took permanent power, became the Emperor by getting rid of many of the Senate systems. Like he literally overthrew the law, became the new law, decided to do whatever he wanted, even though the Senate still existed. He still had to go through the Senate to do certain things. The Senate still existed, but he basically just did whatever he wanted because he had that power, or maybe not even had that power. He just literally did it because no one else would step up to him. And it's clearly set in stone. Like, I cannot stress enough, the stormtroopers, if you've seen Bad Batch, the whole story of Bad Batch is how the clones were placed by the stormtroopers. And the stormtroopers, the whole reason that they exist is the same reason that ICE exists, at least in this iteration of ICE. They are masked individuals, and in some of their more recent shows like The Mandalorian, they're very much more of like a, how do I say, they're very much more like a regime in terms of, like, they are like white supremacists, like literally they're supremacists. Like there's no other way to go about that. If you've seen The Mandalorian, there's literally a whole segment where they talk exactly like that. I can't stress, like the New Order, if you've seen the recent trilogy, terrible movies, but even though they're terrible, they still are spitting it in your face. The New Order, or whatever they were called, the new stormtroopers, basically, they had a whole part in one of those movies where they had the bright red flags with the white symbols on the flags. You know the Nazi regime, but they literally had that while having a full-on speech, and at the very end of the speech, they all saluted in a very similar manner. Like, brother, it's spitting in your face. It's spitting in your face, and some people refuse to see the parallels of what's going on in Star Wars compared to what's going on today. And I think it's super interesting. Not in a good way. It's just interesting. Go, wow. This is like bar for bar what happened in there. But then you look at like what Donald Trump did. Like he spoke all those sweet words to all of his dedicated fans, his MAGA supporters. He rose to power by lying to their faces. He rose to power by using sweet words. He literally had some people call it a planted assassination attempt. I kind of do agree with that. Like, first off, if you're getting shot in the ear like that and then raising up to fish bump in the air, like, come on, man. That one felt a little staged. You can't deny that. But essentially, yeah, it was a whole, everything that he did lines up to almost word for word what Palpatine did. Maybe not as gracefully, maybe not as like well planned out, but you can't deny that he got the same kind of results. And then what he's doing now is essentially what Palpatine's doing. Even though the Congress, the Senate, they still exist. They're still kind of doing their jobs. He's still doing whatever he wants. He started a whole war when the whole point of Congress is to say, okay, we are at war with this country, or we are not at war with this country. And the very fact that he started a war without their permission or without their input is exactly what Palpatine does, and I cannot. Like, I need you to follow me here. Are you with me right now? And then, of course, what I say again, ICE agents, masked men, basically overstepping their boundaries, breaking the law, doing things that they were not trained to do. If you don't know, stormtroopers really weren't trained. They're just regular civilians. Many of them were just kind of given a helmet. They're kind of taught, okay, this is how you shoot a weapon. I'm sure ICE agents are kind of taught the same thing, but my God, it is so 1-for-1 what is going on right now that I can't even fathom that people don't see the parallels to this. Like, we are clearly the Empire. Like, huh? We are invading other countries, imparting our rule to get resources for the ruling class, which again, the ruling class is what's currently taking over. If you don't know, in Star Wars, a lot of the officers, the people in the gray uniforms, the people in power, weren't even people who have a lot of military like might. And sure, some of them are from previous militaries, or they have like their generals from the past war, but many of them are simply just spoiled rich kids. They are billionaires. They are the royals, the elite. They are running the empire, and they're terrible at it. And the reason that they're terrible is because they don't have humanity. Like many of them, they think lesser of the people, the common people, and that's the reason that most of the time the rebellion wipes the floor of them, is because they underestimate their opponent. And literally every single officer you see in Star Wars is exactly like that, except for a handful which actually have some common sense. Whether that be like your Grand Admiral Thrawns, whether that be your I'm sorry, well, I already know Thrawn because I can't remember all their names off the top of my head. There's a lot of people in Star Wars. But oh my god, I'm gonna be honest. If you're someone who's like keeping up with the world right now, watch Star Wars. Watch, like, you don't have to like. I mean, yeah, honestly, watch all of them. But it's like, even if you don't like watch the shows, watch some of the movies. Like, go look up some of the scenes where Palpatine is giving a speech, and you cannot tell me that man and it has parallels of what's going on today. And that's, you know what, and that's honestly where I'm going to leave it. I just think it's beyond interesting. It's so interesting that some people will turn a blind eye. They watch all these shows are talking about, man, this kind of like dictatorship thing that's going on is kind of evil. Having mass soldiers doing whatever they want, regardless of what the law is definitely evil. Having a peaceful world where everyone can get along, everyone has equal rights. That sounds great. That sounds wonderful. I agree with this random alien on screen. They should be able to be successful on this planet as well. And yet, when you turn to the real world, that's like, oh, that doesn't exist. No, that's not what I want. That's not what I voted for. Like my brother. I know, my lord. But that's enough of this. So, thank y'all for listening. I'll talk to y'all later. Go read a book and have a good day. Deuces.